Good evening and welcome to the National News Broadcast. And we're ready to bring you the top stories from home and around the world. I'm Natalia Virvadana.
I'm Movin Hettiarachi, and here are today's headlines. The President restricts his birthday celebrations to religious observances only. At Anuradhapuram, the Mahasangha praises the leadership given to deliver the country from the COVID-19 epidemic and terrorism. Airtime allocated for election campaign speeches. The Premier states that the development projects that have come to a standstill will recommence after the general election. Former Minister Rishad Badruddin records a statement with the CID in connection with the alleged fraud in importation of rice in 2017. The senior citizen who set an example.
And moving on to the top story for today, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa celebrated his birthday today, restricting all events to customary religious observances. And the President spent yesterday and today at the Anuradhapura sacred site engaging in religious rites. The President offered the milk rice puja with the lighting of the lamps at the historic Rupavahini Mahasaya at Anuradhapura this morning. Venerable Uduwe Dhammalokatera conducted the religious rites. Thereafter, a Kapruk puja was offered to the sacred stupa. The President also garlanded the statue of King Dutugamunu and Vihara Mahadevi in the premises of the Rupavahini Mahasaya. Arriving at the Buddha Mandiraya, the President engaged in religious rites at the Devalayas. A distribution of alms was also organized under the patronage of the President. The devotees gathered at the event extended their wishes to the President. Chaitya Ramadhikari of the Rupavahini Mahasaya, Venerable Pallegama Hemarathanathera, Chief Prelate of the Anuradhapura Sambuddhatva Jayanti Viharaya, Venerable Nugethanne Pannyanandathera, Chief Prelate of the Mihintale Rajamaha Viharaya, Venerable Walawahengunawave Dhammarathanathera, Viharadhikari of Lankarama, Venerable Ralapanave Dhammajyotithera, presided over the Pinkama with several other prelates of the Mahasangha. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, Minister Chamal Rajapaksa, former Minister Basil Rajapaksa and former parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa were present with family members, friends and people's representatives. Thereafter, the President and the Prime Minister engaged in religious rites at the Mirisavetiya Rajamaha Viharaya. After paying homage at the Mirisavetiya Stupa, the President visited the Vihara Mandiraya and conducted the Buddha Puja. Thereafter, an alms-giving for 100 bhikkhus was conducted. Chief incumbent of the Mirisavetiya Rajamaha Viharaya, Venerable Italavetunuweve Jnanatilakathera, delivering an exhortation, stated that the gratitude of the nation is with the President and the Prime Minister, who ended within 3 years the war that lasted over 30 years. The President engaged in religious observances at the historic Jayasri Mahabodhiya this evening. Atapirikara was offered and the Mahasangha chanted Setpirit to invoke merits on President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Thereafter, the President met with Atamasthanathipati Venerable Dr. Pallegama Sirinivasathera and obtained blessings. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa venerated the Abhayagiri Purvarama Mahaviharaya last evening. The President instructed the relevant officials to reconstruct the dilapidated building in the Vihara premises and to take steps to resolve the issue pertaining to the acquiring of a plot of land 40 years ago without compensation being granted. The President, after worshipping at the Kuttampokuna Viharaya, met with its chief incumbent, Venerable Ihalagama Pavarakirtithera, and engaged in a cordial discussion.
Religious rites and almsgivings were conducted to invoke blessings on President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, whose birthday is today. The Christian service was organized at the Nigambo Bolavalana Church and was presided over by Reverend Father Srinath Manoj Pereira. Hindu religious rites to invoke blessings on the president were conducted at the Manikya Vinayagar Kovil at Bambalpitiya. Muslim religious observances were conducted at the Kollupitiya Jumma Masjid. The annual distribution of alms held at the Colombo Hunupitiya Gamini Matha Elders Home to mark the President's birthday was held this year as well. The President has been continuously contributing to this task since 2016.
We now bring you a segment on the leader who dedicated himself on behalf of the country amidst all challenges.
In the year 2005, the people entrusted the responsibility of the motherland with incumbent Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, who was elected as president. The people who were battered by terrorism had one wish, which was a free tomorrow. In order to give leadership to the cause and upon the hopes of the motherland, then President Mahinda Rajapaksa's choice was Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who is the incumbent president of the country. Then Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa gave leadership to the humanitarian operation to defeat terrorism by directing suitable individuals appropriately whilst having the aspiration of the people before him. The 30-year terrorism was brought to an end, fulfilling the aspirations of peace-loving people. Thereafter, the battle of development commenced. The untidy capital city became a place of public attraction under the guidance of then Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa. This strong journey could not be weakened by insults and mudslinging, as the country needed a strong, straightforward leadership. The motherland expected a leader who rejects extremism and racism. All the people hoped for a leader who can create a country in which people can live without mortal fear. This was the hope of incumbent Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna as well. Ultimately, this strong leadership was the wish of 6.9 million voters. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had to face challenges not faced by other leaders in history. President Rajapaksa took steps to control the COVID-19 epidemic even before developed countries could devise plans, and the measures have been commended by foreign delegates. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, referring to prison inmates, stated that if they do not get reformed, he will reform them, as drugs are brought in while serving prison terms and the underworld is also operated from within the prisons. Commenting on loan facilities, the President stated that he does not instruct for loans to be granted to his close associates or to politicians. He states that loan facilities should be granted to the public. He further stated that the people have given him a great power to reform the country. Therefore, he looks to be given the opportunity to bring about reforms.
චිරන් ජයතු ජනපතිතුමනි.
Recently, we reported on a letter which was received at Temple Trees titled Agramatya Mahinda Rajapaksa Mahatma Atatama into the very hands of the Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The most significant moment with regards to this letter took place today. The letter was received by the Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa on the 10th of this month. Upon opening the letter, the Premier found a handwritten letter accompanied by a 5,000 rupee note. The letter was written by the resident of Madiragiriya in Polonnaruwa, aged 86. He is Mr. S.B. Heva Hatter.
දැන්ට මම 86 BA පසුවන අයකි. 86 මට ඇවිදීමට බැරිය. රෝගීව ඇඳේ සිට ලියමි.
On the very next day, we headed for Mr. S.B. Heva Hatter's residence located at 1st Division Madiragiriya Polonnaruwa. A father of 5, Mr. Heva Hatter had functioned as the village head for 12 years since 1979. The sum Mr. Heva Hatter had sent by post to Premier was his 5,000 rupee elder's allowance. He had requested the Premier to deposit the sum into the COVID-19 fund. After reading Mr. Heva Hatter's letter, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa decided to place the money in the very hands of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. This happened today at the almsgiving organised at the Mirisavatiya sacred site to mark the President's birthday, at which Mr. Heva Hatter received the opportunity to gift the 5,000 rupees to the President in the presence of the Prime Minister. His family members were also present. The generosity of Mr. S.B. Heva Hatter as a senior citizen who aptly recognised his social responsibility is commendable.
The allocation of airtime for radio and television election propaganda sessions of recognized political parties and independent groups was done today. The task was carried out at the auditorium of the Western Province Aesthetic Resort. The allocation of airtime for 40 recognized political parties and 313 independent groups was done under the supervision of the Elections Commission. Covering all districts of the island, a recognized political party is allocated with 6 15-minute airtime slots, whilst an independent group is allocated with 2 15-minute slots. The national television will telecast election propaganda speeches from the 15th of July on Channel I. Commissioner General of Elections Saman Sri Ratnayaka said free airtime has been allocated to facilitate a level playing field for all contesting political parties when campaigning over the national television and the national radio. Thereby, he stated that today, the dates and times of allocated airtime for each political party and independent groups was decided today. Meanwhile, 2 rehearsals on conducting the election according to health guidelines were conducted at the Sri Wikramapura Community Hall at Mattakuliya and the Sama Viharaya at Dematagoda today. Chairman of the Elections Commission Mahinda Deshapri also joined in the observations of the rehearsals. An election rehearsal was also conducted in the Batticaloa district today. It was conducted by District Returning Officer, District Secretary Kalampati Padmaraja. The number of fully recovered COVID-19 patients to have been discharged from hospitals currently stands at 1,472. The number of patients undergoing further hospitalized treatment stands at 467. No COVID-19 positive patients were reported today. According to the report issued by the Epidemiology Unit, as at 10 a.m. today, within the past 24 hours, 26 patients were discharged from their respective hospitals upon full recovery. Thereby, out of the total number of 1,950 COVID-19 cases reported in the island, the number of fully recovered patients stands at 1,472 as of today. This accounts for 75.48%. Patients undergoing further hospitalized treatment account for 23.94%. 11 COVID-19 deaths have been reported in the island, and this is a percentage of 0.56. Yesterday, 3 COVID-19 infected patients were detected in the country, out of which 2 were returnees from Kuwait, whilst 1 was an individual from India en route to Qatar. A group of 146 expatriate Sri Lankans who were stranded in India due to the spread of the coronavirus arrived in the island from the Chennai airport early this morning. A group of 44 individuals who were also stranded in India arrived in the island from the Mumbai airport early this morning. The returnees were subjected to PCR testing at the airport itself, and steps have been taken to accommodate them at several hotels situated around the airport until the test results are received. A group of 60 expatriate Sri Lankans who were stranded in England arrived in the island from the London Heathrow airport this morning. The returnees were subjected to PCR testing at the airport, and steps have been taken to accommodate them at several hotels situated around the airport until the test results are received. Meanwhile, 25 expatriates from India and 39 from Oman have arrived in the country as part of a rotation in maritime staff deployed on ships.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa states that the development projects that have come to a standstill will be speedily recommenced after the general election. The Premier expressed these views participating in several election propaganda rallies in Hiriyala electorate in Kurunegala. The public rally held at the Talgoda Pitiya in Kurunegala was organised by the Hiriyala electorate organiser of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, UK Sumit Kudukumbura. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa said that for a country to develop, firstly roadways, water supply and electricity is necessary, as it is through these days that areas develop and in turn the country develops. The Premier further stated that the development brought by them collapsed during the past 5 years as the economy of the country weakened and development stalled. The Premier stated that democracy was distanced from the country. He further stated that it was in this context the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa assumed the presidency. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa stated that when the Parliament heads in one direction and the President heads in another direction, it is not possible to take forward parliamentary affairs and the affairs of the country. This was experienced during the past 5 years as development work in the country came to a standstill. The Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa stated that when the COVID-19 virus entered the country, if not for the guidance and the leadership of the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the country could have faced a frightful situation.
Former Minister Rishad Badiuddin was summoned before the CID today to record a statement pertaining to the investigation underway into fraud alleged to have occurred in the importation of rice for Lanka Satusa in 2017. Former Minister Badiuddin arrived at the CID at around 11:30 this morning, after which statements were recorded over a period of 5 hours.
A partial solar eclipse, which is an amazing phenomenon of nature, is expected to be visualized tomorrow, a statement issued by the Planetarium of Sri Lanka stated. The Sri Lankans should visualize this partial solar eclipse while 24% of the sun would be shaded by the shadow of the moon in the northern region and 16% of the sun will be shaded by the shadow of the moon when in Colombo and other suburbs. The partial solar eclipse will be visible from around 10:24 a.m. in Sri Lanka, and the climax of the eclipse in Jaffna region will be about 11:54. While it will be around 11:51 a.m. when Colombo experienced the climax of the eclipse. It is requested not to observe the solar eclipse using sunglasses, glasses darkened with ashes or X-ray sheets, but recommended to only to use the number 14 welding glasses and glasses used specially for observing solar eclipses. That's it for tonight's English News Update. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Good night.